Welcome to Cybersecurity and Coffee, where we answer your cybersecurity and compliance questions during the time it takes to enjoy a small cup of coffee. Today's question isn't actually a question, but a comment from one of our customers. This customer wrote, "The most time-consuming challenge in my job is vendor reviews. Just the sheer amount of vendors to review." Wow, we all feel that a little bit, right? So I am excited to share a process I think is really going to help you make vendor management less painful. The reality is, a lot of ISOs are still doing vendor management wrong. They are gathering documents using a sort of bucket method. Let me describe the bucket method and see if this sounds like something you do or were told to do. It seems right now most ISOs have two buckets these days. This is a vendor or this is a critical vendor. To put your vendors into one of these two buckets, you ask 5 or 25 questions about each vendor. Questions like, if this vendor were to have a data breach, would that harm our institution? And the more times you say yes to your different questions, the more likely you will put the vendor in the critical bucket. Once you have your vendors categorized into their two buckets, you start collecting documents. You take your regular vendors and you collect very little documentation. Some people even elect to go with none. And then you take your critical vendors and you ask for everything. Financial, SOC report, BCP. Do not forget the kitchen sink. There's just one problem. Okay, there's two problems with the bucket method. You end up collecting a ton of unnecessary documents from some vendors, or trying to. I could be wrong, but I bet collecting useless documents is not in your job description. And even worse, with the bucket method, you may not get enough documentation from the other vendors that were categorized as not critical, creating a gap in security in your security. If this sounds like your process, I have good news. There is a better way. We call it the if-then method. The if-then method goes like this. You still start with asking a series of questions about your vendors. The difference is these are what I call trigger questions. Each yes will lead you to get a specific document for a specific purpose. If there is a concern, then get a document that will tell you about that concern. If, then. Get it? Let's see some examples. One great trigger question is, does the vendor store sensitive bank information or any customer information? This is a question about security. See, if the vendor stores your sensitive info, then you need to know they are storing it securely. And what kind of document could tell us about how securely a vendor is storing things? Yes, exactly, a SOC report. If security is a concern, then look at a security document. On the other hand, if you were to answer this question as, no, the vendor doesn't store sensitive info, then it's not such a great use of your time to ask for and review a SOC report because, quite frankly, there's no business reason to care. Let's do one more example of a trigger question. If the vendor service were unavailable for a short period of time, think like a few minutes or a few hours, would our institution be harmed? This is a question about availability. If this service being down for a few minutes or hours would actually keep you from running your business, then you need to know that that's not going to happen. How can we know if service will keep running? By looking at their business continuity plan. If availability is a concern, then look at a document about being available. On the other hand, if you were to answer this question as, no, it won't be a problem if they're unavailable for a few hours, then just like with the last trigger question, it's not a good use of your time to review a document that is going to tell you something that you don't need to know. So by ditching the bucket method and by adopting the if-then method, you're going to both save time and be more accurate in your vendor due diligence. Reviewing vendor documents definitely takes time. It takes attention. So do yourself a favor by getting the right documents. No more and no less. I gave you 2 examples today, but we can do better than that. To help you even more, we created a resource that gives you clear steps for this process and a complete list of due diligence questions to get you onto this new method fast. You can download this resource by going to tandem.app/if-then. If you like this video, be sure to like, comment, or share. Even more importantly, we want to answer your cybersecurity and compliance questions. So give us your questions and you just might see it on the next video.